deal with it. And then the platform that we wanted is building just like a sophisticated equity trading exchange. So transparency is definitely number one. Transparency in terms from user perspective is meaning you need to know your trade, where you are, where's the execution, and then transparency in terms of our investors and our partners from a project perspective, like listing partners. They need to know where, in terms of their pricing, in terms of their pricing and in terms of the participations and things like that. Transparency is very key. And from a regulatory perspective, a lot of things what we're seeing currently is each country's regulator has a very vague idea about how the crypto trading is taking place, the fairness of the market. So what we're looking at, the exchange that we're offering is different. We definitely have been working on a lot of transparency from a trading transaction cost, from a trading transaction record, from overall trading monitoring and surveillance perspective. So this is actually good for the user who trades on the exchange, and it is also good for the investors who's actually listing projects and on the exchange to know where they are. And also, in anticipation for a lot of the regulatory change in the developed market, we think it's good when the regulator comes in and want to understand the trading. So, and also, because this is the Wall Street, so it's execution quality, the speed of execution, the system is actually built with low latency and high put-through. So this is where a lot of time when you look around, Bitmax is part of the global, I would say, global blueprint for the entire exchange. And then overall, the branding is actually global digital mercantile, and our global footprint that involves 3 exchanges actually. And Bitmax is the first one that launched in Asia, Singapore-based, and it's crypto to crypto. And a lot of people ask me, so why Asian first? And my answer is always, there's just so much dynamic, so much, well-rounded user community group, and there's just so much trading activity happening, particularly in this region, and of course spreading around the world. So it makes sense for us to actually build and launch our first exchange. First of all, to build a platform. Second of all, to build a team. Third, to making sure we've got testing out our business model, our operating model, making sure the exchange is an integral part of the cryptocurrency ecosystem, because it connects everything together. The exchange connects the investors, connects the traders, connects the blockchain projects, all to the one platform. We want to making sure when we launch Bitmax, facing off the global users, we have a solid business model to run with it. And then one important thing, the team looking at it, because we come from a traditional finance background, when we look at where the cryptocurrency current market statistics, market status versus where all the mature trading asset, meaning equity, fixed income, FX, commodity, when we look at it, we were always shocked how much room the cryptocurrency can grow. So, for example, if you look at the total trading volume for the entire crypto, like coin market cap, it pretty much average between 15 billion to 25, 30 billion a day. This is pretty much entire crypto. But when you're looking at just the US equity market, it actually trades 400 to 600 billion dollar a day. When you look at FX, if you look at the entire FX market daily trading volume, it's $5 trillion a day. So this is like a quantum in terms of a new industry, crypto trading, for growth, and there's a huge room for basically collaboration to making sure the majority of the, whether it's the majority of the users or the majority of the investors understand the application of the blockchain technology, as well as to really understanding the fairness, the mechanism of the crypto trading. There's a huge gap to bridge, and there's also the room for growth. And then when you look at overall market structure, for example, the FX, the same thing with equity. The reason the market is so huge, even if you look at the COPEX, look at how sophisticated the equity market is. You need to have a cash product like stock, and you need to have derivative markets like the futures, like the ETFs. And then you also need to have a lot of basically institutional investors that can actually participate, providing a very good quality liquidity to basically manage the stabilization and the growth of the overall asset. So I think the cryptocurrency, from my personal view as well as my team, it is an emerging asset class for sure. There's a huge amount of interest, there's a huge amount of development in the last several years, whether it's from the blockchain technology acceptance, as well as just the trading activity, the interest in the fact that the Bitcoin is emerging as the digital currency, just like any other FX, is a huge actual progress. However, when you're looking at where it goes there, it definitely takes a lot of the collaboration, looking at between the traditional finance and the overall blockchain industry, from a structure perspective, from a business model perspective, as well as from just generally infrastructure perspective to get there. So this is where we think from Bitmax perspective, we've got experience and we've got a vision and we've got understanding of the overall blockchain technology as well as the future trading aspects to actually help with that. So the last but not least, when I'm looking at any capital markets, when I look at the cryptocurrency market, any market performs two fundamental functions. One, like stock market, it helped the corporation to raise capital by giving them a platform, like doing IPO. Two, when you have the IPO, get into the secondary market, it actually helps the investors, like you and I, like the institutional investors, like anyone, to actually buy into the stock to build long-term wealth. So all in all, any sophisticated, successful capital markets will provide the basic primary function like those two. Eventually, it boosts the economy, create the jobs. So when you're looking at what happened in the last couple of years with the cryptocurrency market, it is actually very similar. It gives a platform for blockchain technology firm to have a platform to raise their capital through ICO or through some kind of mechanism, right? So they got their initial funding, so they can build up their technology and they can actually find a new application. So that is the capital raising function. And then from the secondary market perspective, there's a lot of exchange basically has been in operation the last couple of years. It has provided a lot of channel for the mass users like you and I to basically own some piece of Bitcoin, to buy into some of the ICO. And if we make the right decision, like for example, like take a look at Bitcoin as a case, it definitely helps build some kind of wealth, whether it's a short term and medium term. So this is where from a crypto market's perspective, it exactly provides the similar functionality for capital markets. So where we go from there is again, because the Bitmax, where we position and how Bitmax fit into the overall global digital mercantile global blueprint, where we position to tackle both the crypto-to-crypto world as well as the regulatory markets, where we have a very committed business plan to develop the structure to support the development of the cryptocurrency markets in the developed country. I think this ultimately, we're very much dedicated to support the whole innovation in the financial markets, as well as when the cryptocurrency going through a certain mechanism that get widely adopted, it is actually overall that will solidify the status of cryptocurrency as another way of asset for me. So this, in our perspective, overall, it will definitely boost the crypto economy, helping all the blockchain technology company to actually, raise capital and find more usage, driving the innovation. This, in my mind, is really where overall we look at the exchange. It's not just the exchange; it's a platform to actually propel innovation. It's a platform to actually bring impactful changes to life. So thinking about it, this is what I had some interview this afternoon. There was one good question I remember. It really made me think about internet in 1995. So internet in 1995 versus internet now, it's really a life-changing path, and it's really